On behalf of Nichefire, I'd love to welcome all of our listeners and viewers. And today we're talking with an old colleague of mine, Michael Stich, who's had quite a decorated career from both the client side and the agency side, dealing with a lot of different technologies. And his agency experience has been in digital marketing. And I'm here also with Michael Howard, who's the founder and CEO of Nichefire, and Khalil El-Amin, who's the head of sales and marketing for Nichefire, who's also a co-founder. We welcome you, and we'd love to have you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Sure, John, nice to talk with you again. Always great to hang out with you, and thank you, Michael and Khalil, for the invitation. It's nice to explore this topic and sort of share what we know together. It's still such an emerging space, but name is Michael Stich. I'm currently with a company called CourtAvenue and have been here in Cincinnati for about 15 years. Prior to that was in technology and strategy in Texas, of course, raised in Asia and schooled in Boston before that. Last 15 years, including some with John, were and have been in the digital strategy space. Have been with a combination of companies that include, Bridge Worldwide now, Gray Midwest, Rockfish into VML, into VMLY&R, into WPP. And about a year ago, left to join a startup with my friends Kenny Tomlin and Dan Cobby, which has been just an explosive year of growth. And we're on to building out another operating network in sort of a next generation organization.
So I guess the first question is, what marketing technology trends, do you see emerging today, and how do you see them changing marketing?
There's a lot going on right now because of COVID. The way that we talk about it at CourtAvenue is, everyone is in the midst and game of whatever you want to define digital transformation as being. But the net of it is we've really seen an acceleration of marketing technology across the enterprise, and that clients, no matter who you are, automotive, healthcare, retail, industrial, have to find ways to accelerate the implementation of select technologies inside of their organization. More specifically, John, to answer your question, we're seeing a lot of data unification activities. We're seeing a lot of content automation activities. We're seeing a lot of clients looking into enhanced reality as a way to improve their virtual event capabilities and their capabilities. There's a much bigger bet on digital channels for communications, and especially those that are ahead of the curve on things like video, short form video, user generated video, streaming video, et cetera. There is also a dramatic acceleration of understanding new aspects of CRM and looking for ways to improve relationship marketing to include things that would include personalized experiences, recurring revenue streams, as a service business models. And then lastly, there's a whole host of underlying capabilities underneath that, right? So there's tools to help with workflow and to help with internal employee training and communications, to help with decision support amongst employees who've got to take a lot of this on, organizational training tools. So there's a lot of aspects of what I just said that are sort of advancing forward, but the net of it is that most companies are realizing they've got to do multiple things well at once here, and are looking for help to figure all of this out.
We've all seen how enterprise people tend to be risk adverse. The current world with COVID, but also as you point out, with the advances of so many different technologies that really began well pre-COVID, they're really changing the landscape. And do you see that changing corporate culture in a way where people are becoming more aggressive, more likely to embrace change and to take risks that they wouldn't have taken 10 years ago?
Absolutely. And the crises underneath that are driving, that move from complacency to something that is much more active include the rise of e-commerce, with everyone rising, sort of working from home, and the new flexible work reality. There's also sort of the overhaul of media plans with that. People's eyeballs are much more on screens and much more from homes, much less within traditional media placements. Outdoor is recovering, but there's a lot out there that are sort of shifted for the future within traditional media mixes. That a lot of media planning and activity have to change as well. I think this great pause that we've all gone through has also informed a reevaluation of brand choices in every category in our lives. And some of that's based upon availability with supply chain challenges. Some of that's based upon, what's the purpose of that brand? And how does it fit with my life now that I've evaluated my own life and my own sort of what I'm doing with it?
One of the consistent things I think is that brand marketers are always looking for insights. How do you see these tech-driven insights being received by key people?
There are a lot of traditional marketers and, for that matter, decision makers who are looking at understanding of their end users and their customers and saying that these new sources of data that we get, either we don't know what to do with them, or we don't trust them, or we don't know how to rationalize them against the ways that we're traditionally looking at it. And yet, it's never been easier to do primary user research. We're all sitting in our living rooms. We can do turnaround, statistically significant research. People that are specific to our target audience, 48 hours, less than 10 grand, and we're able to not only ideate with our customers, but then prioritize our ideas and verify what we do with them in terms of actual instances all through the planning process. It has never been easier to bring users alongside the planning process so that we've got their voice through the entire experience, and whatever we create on the other side of it is not only coming from them, but validated by them before we launch.
Yeah, one of the things I think about, Michael, is that we're sort of in a time where we're having a collision between qualitative and quantitative. Like the technology is enabling a qualitative look at a quantitative scale. But the work that Nichefire is doing, allowing marketers to look at millions of data points from consumers and then consolidating that into the most meaningful, seems very powerful.
I think we've never had more data in our lives, and we've never been more sort of challenged to figure out how to synthesize everything and boil everything down into what to go do. So anything that can help, including Nichefire services, to synthesize, to distill, and then to predict is useful for anyone.
What kind of tools are you guys using, and are you satisfied with the tools you're using to try to do that kind of synthesis?
So there's a lot of really good social listening tools. There's a lot of really good web analytics, sort of site level and ecosystem level tools that can serve up a synthesis. But I'll argue there's a lot of custom integrations that are even just now accelerated, especially because of the rise of commerce at many enterprise levels, for them to think through, how are we doing on all of these things that we started at the top of the call with? How are we doing on search? How are we doing on content? How are we doing on assortment? How are we doing on, social performance? That distillation effort there's a lot of custom builds happening right now.
How are you helping them capitalize on this technology? Are they able to? Are they agile enough? What's your take?
The way that we are finding some momentum within CourtAvenue is clients just starting with the question of, how do I even organize for this, right? I know collectively all the things that I need to do, but I need to guide my company through the right organizational structure, the right approach to organization, so that I'm able to be successful in these areas. And we didn't expect that, but that's something that we're hearing from clients as a real need, is to walk in the organizational design door and to combine, sort of education of what are the new jobs to be done with planning for what are the right roles and team structures to do those jobs in order to be successful at search, in order to be able to be successful at commerce, in order to be able to do things well within CRM. It's like, help me organize first, and then I'll go do all these things.
Yeah, I mean, that's really interesting. Can you share a war story or two, a success story or a war story where you had to go to battle for an idea?
There are still quite a few pitches out there. There are still quite a few sort of competitive environments in which clients are looking for, what the right end user experience is. But the way that we're approaching it is again more from the sort of the business consulting strategy door, where we're talking more about let's build your capabilities roadmap, and let's talk through how you can build the right roadmap for what you want to go create, and then we'll go be your agency, and that's really working well for us. I will say we're very thankful to have early clients inside of the food services business, automotive, healthcare, B2B testing, the U.S. military, a variety of other locations. So there's sort of this broad brush cross industry demand for these kinds of capabilities. We've been able to be very pleasantly surprised in the demand for this kind of discussion.
How does your agency find a competitive advantage? What gives you guys the right to win there at CourtAvenue?
The individuals who have been willing to raise their hand and come on this crazy journey with us in the short term are the reason why we're successful. And we've been very thankful that we have, I'll just say, top talent within the organization that are seeing this as being another chapter for where the sort of marketing world goes. And we have both client relationships and prior relationships with folks that we've worked with that are both raising their hand and saying, yeah, let's give this a go. And it's just been a real joy. So I would say to your question about being self-critical, for me, it's just being able to ensure that we honor that, and that we have the right sort of focus, given our size, on the real things that we can accomplish and be strong at, and ensure that we say yes to the right ability to deliver, and the right ability to sort of attract good talent to see things through.
How do you see the internet influencing business in the next 5 years?
I think we're into a fundamental reinvention of the internet. I see, from the combination of multiple technologies hitting their stride, all of us, from a much broader expansion of information that we can gather because of IT, to a much faster transmission of that data over networks like 5G, to a much more advanced ability to synthesize and make sense of information because of AI and machine learning, to the ability to express that information in increasingly rich and immersive experiences because of enhanced reality, or the metaverse, as people are calling it today. And then if you want to layer on top of that the rise of blockchain on top, we have a fundamental re-architecting of what we call the internet today, which I am super excited about. Like, there are so many ways that what those 5 areas that I just described are going to change how we experience information, and for that matter, our relationships with each other over the next 5 to 10 years, that it's a great time to be in this business. It's a great time to figure out any one of those, and all of them collectively for an enterprise. So we all love Google Maps these days, or Apple Maps, whichever one you use. But this notion of we used to get lost, and now we don't, thanks Google, right? We used to not know how best to get to a location from A to B, but now we don't have to care. And I really love the idea of that being reapplied to support within the marketing world. What if we had a predictive co-pilot that was helping us with every single decision we have to make as marketers? Regardless of how it evolves, gestural interfaces to the internet are going to grow much more real, much more responsive, and our ability to interface with content, and for that matter, communications with each other, in a way that gets rid of keyboards and makes it something that is much more in line with sort of our advent and interface with voice recognition assistants and other things is just getting started as well. And then the last thing I'll just say is our ability then to understand how things are working, such that we can buy things and select things on a much more personalized basis and on a much more convenient basis, so we can just opt in and opt out of services that we care about, rather than us having to physically put our credit card in or buy things, or we have perfect choice over the offering.
I almost hate to ask you to give me a capstone here, but do you have any kind of summary statements, any last thoughts you'd like to leave us with?
We've all spent our time evaluating our lives over the last 18 months, 24 months to think through, how are we spending it? And that's causing all of us to, you've heard the term great resignation, but all of us to reevaluate how we're spending our time. And I hope today's podcast has added to that question of how we're spending our time. It's wonderful to have so many different companies and friends and relationships being newly open to trying things out, whether it be joining a new company or taking a flyer on a new partnership and a new relationship, or looking to new providers for new solutions on things. It's just a wonderful time to be in a period of discovery. And my capstone comment would be, be curious and be in that mode of discovery right now, because everyone's there and everyone's trying to figure it out. And it's just a really good sort of renaissance moment to think about really what our norms and values and sort of tenets should be, both individually and then collectively.
Thank you for the time. On behalf of Nichefire and Michael Howard and Khalil El Amin, I want to thank you, Michael Stich, for joining us. And it's been a pleasure talking to you again, my friend, and look forward to that future you've mapped out for us.